Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So not too long ago, I put together a video that highlighted the top 5 reasons why I think you should consider getting the current generation here, Toyota Tundra TRD Pro, over the new 2022 redesign. And to be fair with you guys, and to be honest with myself, I tried my best to put my bias aside for this video, and I wrote down a number of reasons why that 2022 Tundra TRD Pro is in fact going to be the wiser option for 9 out of 10 people out there. And it really boils down to 4 different categories, right? Performance, off-roading capability, the improved tech, and the amazing new redesign features and new redesign cues. So let's start with performance. You guys know that this 5.7 liter V8 has 381 horsepower and 401 foot-pounds of torque tied to that 6-speed automatic transmission. So again, a very trusted platform combination at this point, but it doesn't really hold a candle to that 22. The 22 has that 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 hybrid, again with that nickel metal hydride battery that allows it to get 437 horsepower and 583 foot-pounds of torque. 583 foot-pounds of torque, that is quite a bit higher than what we're tracking with this one, right, with the 401, and that is largely thanks to that hybrid variant, right? So that battery helps propel those numbers higher. The new 22 has a 10-speed automatic transmission, and that really helps out when it comes to the fuel economy. With the new 22, you're tracking about 20 miles per gallon combined, whereas with this, with a nice steady tailwind going downhill, you're probably tracking more toward 14 miles to gallon, which is a bit absurd, especially in today's world with how much gas costs, right? So that in itself is a huge reason to consider the 2022. When it comes to the towing capacity, that 22 model allows for 12,000 pounds for towing capacity versus about the 9,000 pounds that you would get in this current generation. Again, you know, about 3,000 pounds more is quite a bit. 1,900 pounds payload for the 22 versus the 1,500 pounds that you'd get in this. Again, you know, for people who are actually using their trucks often for work purposes, that is a huge reason in and of itself to consider the 22 over this one. Let's talk off-roading capability. So a lot of people would gripe about the Tundra because it didn't really come with all the off-roading goodies that you would find in the Tacoma and the 4Runner TRD Pro. I'm talking like the multi-terrain select, crawl control, stuff like that. Whereas now, in the 22, you actually get that kind of stuff. Not to mention, you also get the multi-link independent rear suspension, coil suspension, which is better for off-roading purposes. And of course, the crawl control, multi-terrain select, the rear center def lock, you get all of that in the 22, making it much more capable off-road. Improved tech. So I think this is perhaps, I guess depending on who you're talking to, this is perhaps the most notable upgrade on the 2022. Right when you get into the new 22, you see that 14-inch infotainment screen, which is glorious. And I'll pop in here into the Tundra so you can see just how ancient and old this one looks and feels at this point. But you get that 14-inch infotainment, the digital gauge display center stack. You get the pano sunroof, heated cool seats, the heated steering wheel within the 22, 360-degree cameras. You even get blind spot monitors, which in the US anyway, I think they actually get them in Canada, but you do not get blind spot monitors in this, which is pretty funny, huh? You would expect that. You get them in the Tacoma, and now you get them in the 4Runner as well for the 22. So again, small stuff like that, it just kind of shows its age. 2007 is really showing out with that kind of stuff. Wireless charging tray comes standard with the new 22, the backup assist for towing, and memory seating, right? So that's pretty standard stuff, right? But again, we just kind of, us Tundra owners have gotten used to the old archaic ways of this current generation. And maybe that's not necessarily a good or bad thing, I guess. The final bit here revolves around the new design cues. So personally, I love that new solar Octane color. I think that is awesome. And honestly, I think that's a reason to consider getting it by itself. And honestly, if I end up getting a 22 ever, I think that will be a driving reason why I consider it. In addition to that, I really like the fender and the tailgate camo trim, if you will, the camo design around the fender flares. I think that looks pretty cool, and they have it on the tailgate, as well as the camo interior. You get the red or black options for the interior, and I think that looks pretty sleek. What else? You get more pronounced fender flares. With this one, a lot of people who own this like how subtle the body lines are. You know, it's not screaming in your face or anything, but it's still, you know, it's still cool. You kind of get a little edge look to it, right? But it's simple. It's not trying to flare out, not trying to be anything that it's not. And a lot of people love that about this current generation Tundra. But nowadays, with things like the Raptor and TRX floating around, wide body flares are in style. They're vogue. So the fact that that new 22 has wider fender flares makes it pretty neat. What else? No fake hood scoops. So that's another reason to consider. I know that bothers a lot of people. And I remember it bothered me quite a bit with my 2017 Tacoma TRD Pro with the fake hood scoop. I even considered cutting out the hole for my 2017 Tacoma just to make it quote-unquote functional, because it didn't sit right with me at the beginning. Obviously over the years I've grown to appreciate that about Toyota at large, and it really hasn't bothered me that much, but I understand that's an issue for some people. What else? So you got the light bar in the 22, which is pretty cool. You got that integrated right up front here. I forget how big it is off the top of my head, but that's pretty cool that they are integrating stuff like that. Again, making it more off-road focused for sure. In addition to that, you have the Falcon Wild Peak all-terrain tires on the 22. You guys know I ended up popping on these Knittel Ridge grapplers on this, which are a much needed improvement over the Michelin LTXs. The LTXs they look like just a normal road-going tire. So most people who buy this current TRD Pro are quick to swap these on, or swap on a more aggressive looking tire. But yeah, that I think wraps up my primary reasons. I'm gonna hop in here to give you a look at just how ancient it is on the inside. Even these door handles, right? Right when you walk up to this, it's easy to feel extremely underwhelmed. Just how chintzy and plastic they feel. And then you have a sea of plastic in here. Not quite as bad as what you would find in a Sequoia, but still extremely underwhelming for a lot of people. If you're coming from, you know, a new Ford, for instance, you would get into this and you'd be like, yikes. A tan headliner, which is meh. Tons of plastic, hard plastic everywhere. So, and even this right here, like the silver bits here, it is largely underwhelming. And not to mention, this is normally chrome and like a silver plastic, similar to what you find up there surrounding this bits right here. So I swapped those out to make them black. Even that, you know, doesn't look too amazing by comparison to what you would find in the 22, right? The 22 has that huge 14-inch infotainment screen, which looks phenomenal, and it seems to be super user friendly too. So I'll hop in, I'll fire it up for fun. So the entire digital gauge, or gauges within the 22, is entirely digital, right? So you don't get the old analog RPM and tachometer there, and speedometer rather. But again, a lot of people love the old-fashioned look and feel of things. So like I said, 9 out of 10 people are going to want to gravitate to that 22 for the obvious reasons and the reasons I just listed there. But for the 1 out of 10 of us, we'll still appreciate the old archaic thirsty Tundra here. Not to mention, sorry guys, I'm going to end on this. This little rumble here is going to be a thing of the past. And although we'll be jealous of your 20 miles per gallon, there will always be a level of jealousy from a 22 owner for the sake of the glorious sound that we have in this current generation Tundra. So I'll wrap up the video there, guys. You let me know what your thoughts are. Tell me if you agree. Tell me if you plan to buy a 22. I'd be curious to know how many folks are aiming at one. And honestly, I'd be curious to know how many people are aiming at the Solar Octane one too. Because I have a feeling right when I see one in person, I'm going to geek out over it and probably want it very, very badly. All right, guys, I'll wrap up the video there. I appreciate you watching as always. Until next time.